Welcome back to the Hockey Show, and today we are talking about the Eastern wildcard race and the craziness that's going on over there. So right now there's like 5 teams all in complete, I don't want to say contention, because they're all in contention. That's just the definition of what they are. But it's just still all over the place of what could happen. There's no telling where these teams could end up, because all these top 5 teams could end up anywhere. The Washington Capitals kind of out of it. It's unfortunate, but I want to talk about them anyways. So let's just jump into it with the New York Islanders. So the Islanders are really, at this point, trying to not play the Bruins in the first round. The Bruins already certified, I guess so, that they're going to be playing the second wild card spot, as they have already won the conference because they're the best built team of all time. And the Islanders are playing to not do that. Now, they're 5-4-1 their last 10, and which is pretty okay, but they are on a 2-game losing streak at this point. They lost 5-0 against the stumbling Tampa Bay Lightning, and 2-1 against the Hurricanes, a team that if they end up staying in this first wild card spot, is the team that I would guess they're going to end up playing in the first round. So not a good look for them there. So 2 games against playoff teams, they lose them. So they still have to play Tampa Bay again, Washington, Philadelphia, and Montreal. So those teams right there, 2 of them playoff. Well, the Washington Capitals at that point might be out of playoff contention, but they're still playing for their lives at this point, so maybe if they get a couple more wins, maybe they're on a roll. Who knows at that point? Tampa Bay just squashed them 5-0, so that might be a tough one. And then Montreal and Philadelphia should be kind of walkovers, but I don't know. They've been kind of slippery lately, and the Islanders haven't really proven anything to me. And really, the Islanders need to be playing for their lives. They only have 4 games left. They have the least amount of games left. They have nothing in hand against anybody. And the Bruins, in my eyes, would be the worst matchup for them. I could see the Islanders having a chance against any of the Metro teams if the Rangers or the Devils or Carolina, any of them end up in the first place spot. Well, if any of them. One of them will. Which one of them does, I could see the Islanders having a chance against one of those teams. Their superior defense and Sorokin and net with their guys with Barzal and Horvat up front and Brock Nelson, who always seems to just be such a killer in the playoffs for some reason. I could see them having at least a good run against a team like one of those guys and getting past the first round. The Islanders, I've always said it, that they're built for the playoffs. They're not built for a regular season superstar team. They're built to go deep in the playoffs, and they always do when they make it in. So they're going to make it in my eyes, but it is dangerous because the teams below them are right behind them. So they're only 1 point above Pittsburgh, 2 points above the Panthers, and both of those guys, I mean, in my eyes, they're both playing better right now than the Islanders are. I mean, on paper and just in my own eyes of the teams and the players. So the Penguins, I mean, I know I just said they're playing better, but they just lost to the Bruins, but they did have an okay game against them. I mean, 3-4, overall, what I saw of the game, they were being absolutely squashed. I mean, they had no offense going into it. I'm surprised they even made it to 3 goals. But they win against Philadelphia yesterday, so they're doing pretty decent right towards the end here. 5 games left. They're 4-6-0 in their last 10, so that's not a very good stat either. And I have the up and down arrows there because for maybe not an hour, but for a couple hours yesterday, the Florida Panthers did surpass them in the leaderboards. They had won earlier in the day, and the Penguins won again, so they get the 1-point advantage. So the Penguins and the Panthers right now racing for that spot. But those two, here's the thing, competition creates quality, right? That's the whole thing. Competition's a good thing. And those two teams are playing so hard against each other to just keep that number 2 spot, that they might force out the number 1 spot in the Islanders. I would not be surprised by that at all. The Panthers playing so good as of late. 6-4-0 in their last 10. The last time I looked at them, I think they were like 5-4-1. So that stat's only getting better. They're on a 3-game winning streak right now, and they've won against, oh God, I can't remember the teams now, but at least one of them in the Columbus Blue Jackets. So the Panthers are looking good as of late, and they've got Buffalo and Ottawa and Washington next. So they got Washington, kind of the dump of the teams still in contention. Ottawa, who I think Ottawa's looking a little bit sketchy as of late as well, and the Buffalo Sabres. Now, Buffalo is the next game that they play. I believe that one actually is tonight or tomorrow. And that is an interesting game because the Buffalo Sabres, as I'll talk about in a second, they are looking good, especially with Devin Levi brought up. So I'll talk about them in 1 second. But the Penguins, right? Their road, they're between each other 1 point, right? They're going back. They literally went back and forth in the standings. They have the same amount of games left, so no games in hand against anybody. And one team's looking not way better, but looking better right now, at least in a momentum role, and they have I would say an easier path than the Penguins. The Penguins, they've got the Devils, and then Minnesota. Those two teams right there, already top of division teams right there. Detroit, which is a team they're looking okay. They're looking not too shabby, I guess. They should be a walkover for a team like the Penguins, but you never know. Those are the type of games that surprise you and they get the loss. They could get the 2 wins against New Jersey and Minnesota and then get the loss against Detroit. Chicago, and Columbus. So those two teams at the end of the season. So they're going to have a 3-game stretch of being like, this could be interesting, I don't know. And then 2 games and they finish off pretty strongly. The Panthers, Buffalo, Ottawa, Toronto, Carolina. So they've got 5 games against playoff, at least 3 teams contending for the playoffs, and then 2 teams in the playoffs. So Florida and the Penguins, an interesting battle there, and it might be the perfect way to upset the Islanders and push them out. Because this is the time, these final handful of games that are going to push these teams to see who's ready for the playoffs, who's worthy, and those are the games. These games coming up are what the actual competition, making them play better, might squeeze out the Islanders, who seem safe for so long. In my eyes, they've been in the number 1 seed for how long now? For months. And now, towards the end of the season here, these teams playing for their lives might squeeze them out of competition. So the Buffalo Sabres, they have 7 games remaining, so they're not even out of it. They have 3 games in hand against the Islanders. Guess what? They win those 3 games, they're tied with the New York Islanders at this point. They win 2 of those games, they're tied with the Panthers. So, yeah, they're still way in it. Even though their 81 points might look like this otherwise, those 7 games in hand, those 7 games left, 2 against the Panthers and the Penguins, and the 3 against the Islanders. If they win those games in hands that they have above those guys, they're literally tied or above those teams. So, yeah. So, they're right there in it still, too. And they're looking not too shabby either. 5-3-2 in their last 10. So, they're way above 500 there. Only losing 3 out of their last 10. Well, in regulation. And but those 7 games remaining, they've got Florida, so that's a tough one. Detroit and Carolina. So 2 contending teams. Florida, that one's going to be an interesting one. That's going to be one to watch tomorrow because those 2 teams, they're right against each other as well, even though it might not look like it. They really are. Detroit should be a walkover. I think it will be for Buffalo. Carolina and New York. Now, this is where, and New Jersey and Ottawa. So all these teams, top teams and a playoff contender, these teams here, right? Buffalo, they have Devin Levi now. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, best name ever. He has looked good, right? He has some good games. He just beat it was the Philadelphia Flyers. But Devin Levi now. Buffalo, the one thing that I think everyone could say is that they needed a goalie. Between Craig Anderson and Luukkonen, Luukkonen can look good, Anderson can look good, but they didn't have that certified number 1 guy, right? And Devin Levi being such a absolute, stud isn't even the right word, an absolute superstar in college, jumping up now and getting a win, a good win, looking strong. And I know all goalies always look good in their debuts. They always do. No matter who the goalie is, they always look good in their debut. Because why wouldn't you be? It's it's time to shine. But Devin Levi coming in with such a pedigree. Look at what Cale Makar did when he jumped up with the Avalanche when he made his debut in the NHL in the playoffs. He took over. He was already a stud. What if this Devin Levi coming up, and he is an absolute shutdown machine. He beat the Rangers. He held them to only 2 goals and looked superior in these games. You don't think he's going to do that against a team like Florida? I think so. How about Detroit? Absolutely. What about Carolina? Carolina, they have a lack of offense. That could be a good one. The Rangers, again, they could go on a tear, win those 4 games. That's 3 games in hand, the 2 against them. What if they win the next 4 games? They're all the way up at the top here. And I believe it, because they could go back and forth between the two. They just did. They're on a 2-game winning streak with those 2 goaltenders now. Absolute superstars. Look out for the Buffalo Sabres. They are killer right now. The Ottawa Senators, though. The Ottawa Senators, 4-4-2. With the Chikrin injury, they're kind of looking sloppy lately, losing 3-0 against Toronto, and then losing in overtime to the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is not what you want to see from your team at this point. Senators fans, this has got to be sad for you, because it is disheartening. It's got to be so hard to see, like, this team. It's like, okay, we lose to Toronto. That's okay. But Columbus, this is a walk-in win. We got to get this one. We have 6 games left going into that game, and you lose that one. You have 5 games left. You're 5 points behind Panthers, 6 against the Penguins. So really, for this team to make it in, they got to hope that the Penguins lose at least 3 of their games, and Ottawa's got to win 4 of them to make it in. So that is a tough one. That is a very tough matchup for the Ottawa Senators. And they've got Carolina, Florida, Tampa, Carolina, and Buffalo. That is a hard stretch. And I actually like the Senators. Of the Canadian teams, I like all the Canadian teams. But with the Senators, for some reason, since I was a child, I've always had a weird liking of them. I don't know why. I've just always have. And I just can't see it happening, and it's sad because them and the Capitals, 2 teams that I actually really like I like actually all the teams. I do like all the hockey teams. I like them all for the most part, but the Washington Capitals as well, 2-6-2 in their last 10, not looking good. It is such an unfortunate season. I mean, the injuries to this team has just been bad. I mean, it's a whole thing I'll talk about once they finally get eliminated. They lose to New York yesterday, 5-2. They play Montreal, which should be a walk. Florida, that's going to be tough. The Islanders, Boston, and New Jersey. There's just no way. The Capitals are out of it. Right now, the Red Wings are tied, but they're 9 points out of playoff spot. There's no way that either of those teams make it in. Sad time. I would say at this point, my prediction, I really think the Islanders are going to get squeezed out. I think that they've been a little bit too passive for a little too long, kind of the whole thing with Columbus beating the Lightning in that playoff series. Kind of the Blue Jackets had to play for their lives to make it in. And then they finally got in. They were going to take that chance. They weren't going to just get walked over by a skilled team. But I think the Islanders, kind of the same situation in this season. They're built for the playoffs, and I think this final stretch of these teams, like the Penguins and the Panthers, these guys are skilled teams, and they're going to try, and they're going to have that momentum flying to play against each other. And then the Sabres, too. So I think they're going to squeeze them out, and I think it's going to be a race between the Penguins, the Panthers, and the Sabres. And I think my prediction, I can't bet against the Penguins anymore. I've done it for too many years now. So I'm going to say the Penguins make it in. And between the Panthers and the Sabres, I would like to see the Panthers make it because I want to see the Sabres go on an absolute fire season next year. And then they make it in the playoffs and finally end the drought. Because I think this is the year that makes the drought the longest it's ever been. And then next year, I want them to see them overcome it. Because if they make it in this year, I mean, against the Bruins, I think they have the best odds against the Bruins. The Sabres, the Sabres have the best odds against the Bruins, I would say. Don't be surprised if they make it in, they upset them. I'm calling it right here. But that is all I have to say. So thank you for watching this video. If you've got it this far, you might as well pick up your free subscription down below. So please feel free to do that. It would make my day. And until next time, too sweet. I hope you're having an awesome day. And ta-ta for now.